No. The Juul. People think it's cool, but I say to them, they're fools. The Juul is really for nerds. The purpose of my speech today is to persuade you not to Juul. I know what you're thinking. What does a guy that got cut from his middle school basketball teams, not once but 2 years in a row, know about vaping? Well, according to Angelica Levito from CNBC in 2018, roughly 3 million high schoolers use Juuls. In addition to that, I spent over $1,000, you guys already know. But the three things I will be covering in this speech are the history of vaping, the downsides of the Juul, and the teen effects. First, I will talk about the history. In this, I will talk about the background of vaping and the creation of the Juul. According to the Consumer Advocates for Smoke-Free Alternatives in 2014 by Jake Riley, the first e-cigarette was created by Herbert Gilbert in 1963. However, it was not commercialized, so it was not popular and was not sold anywhere. But it wasn't until the early 2000s that the more modern vape came out, which was created by a man named Han Lick from Japan. He created this to be an alternative from smoking cigarettes. He was really motivated due to his father's death of lung cancer. But it wasn't until 2006, to be exact, that the U.S. officially started selling them in their stores. Moving into more modern times, however, the Juul was created by a company called the Pax Labs and introduced to the market in 2015. It's a pretty simple design. I've already showed it. I don't know if you can see the new addition I put, "not yours" on it, just to keep away some people, you know. How they are. Contains a battery in the pod, super simple system. It recorded decent sales in its first couple years, but the last 2 years specifically, it absolutely blew up. And according to an article by Malia Robinson from Business Insiders in 2017, the Juul brought in $224 million last year. They are responsible for 1/3 of the entire market of vapes sold. 1/3 of them. There's over 1,000 vapes everywhere in the market, and they are responsible for over 1/3. Now that I talked about the history of it, by covering the background of vaping and the creation of the Juul, I would now like to talk about the downsides of the Juul, more specifically, the health effects and the cost. While the Juul is a healthier alternative than smoking, it doesn't come without its flaws. In an article by Kate Livermore for The Roar in 2017, a Juul pod contains as much nicotine as an entire pack of cigarettes. I don't want to scare you here, but that's about a month and a half work. That's at least 100 packs of cigarettes right there. So I need myself, you know. The average cigarette has about 1 to 1.6% nicotine, I believe, in it, while a Juul has a staggering 5%. And since the Juul is still relatively new, there's no long-term study, so 5 years from now, who's to say what's going to do to your body? And now that I talked about the health effects, let's talk about the cost. A starter pack costs around $50, which may seem pretty standard, but it's a slippery slope that goes out of control. After you buy the starter pack, a single pack of 4 pods, I believe, costs $20. And I mean, you can already see. I have about 100 pods right there. That's about $300 on that table. It roughly takes me about 2 or 3 days to finish a pack. But on the average guy, I would say maybe 8 to 10. So I did the math for that, and that comes out to about $900 a year you'll be spending on Juul pods. This is an unnecessary expense that will cost you your, give me a sec, payday. When in reality, you could be spending that money on I don't know, hoojamajig or whatchamacallit. 2 for 3. Now that I've talked about the downsides, both health and cost, I'd like to talk about the teen effect. More specifically, the teen impact and my personal experience with the vapes. Who vapes in here? I've asked you the last couple times, but a week ago I would ask you to meet me in the bathroom. This is a new Salvatore Castello. I'm committed to change right now. You definitely haven't seen me in the bathroom. I took a poll in high school of 100 kids. 68 of them told me that they did vape. 43 of them told me that they vaped in school. These numbers are astounding. Almost 50% smoked in school. For a product intended for adults to quit smoking, those are just way too high. I actually have a video of what nicotine, Juuls, and high schoolers look like. Better with sound. was the emotional video I was talking about. You can also show that after he got rid of his Juul. Wow. Moving on to my personal experience with the Juul. I started my junior year in the middle of my biology class, I believe. My friend came up to me and asked me, "Hey Sam, you want to hit?" I said, "Yeah, why not? I'm cool." Hit the Juul. In the first 2 seconds, I started coughing out. Luckily, the teacher had their back to me because there was a huge cloud of smoke. I was swiping in the air. What's going on? But at first, I thought Juul was a lifesaver. It's a tough pocket to get. It's a lifesaver. Lifesaver. Oh boy, I was wrong. I went from a kid that never smoked a cigarette in his life to being someone that was addicted to the Juul and nicotine. Back in junior year, before I smoked the Juul, I used to be able to run a 5-minute mile. I thought I was so cool. I'd walk into parties, walk up to the most attractive girl there and say, "Hey, you ever been with a guy that's ran a 5-minute mile?" And I swear to you, 2% of the time it worked. But now, in more modern times, I run a 10-minute mile and I'm out of breath. The Juul has taken a huge toll on my body, and I promise you, if you keep it up, it'll take one on you too. I've talked about 3 things in this speech: the history of vaping, the effects of the Juul on your health and cost, and my personal experience. I'll leave you with, there are options to quitting. There are places out there everywhere for you designed to help you quit. And it's time to be smarty. I'm gonna steal my Juul. And put down the Juul. Thank you.